The next one. The notion that the Genesis creation story is copied word for word from the Enuma Elish. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but this notion that the Genesis story is totally derivative, even a copy from a pagan tradition, and so there's no reason to really give it any credence in a particularly Christian way.
Yeah, well, you didn't mispronounce it, so you're not off to a bad start in that
All
regard.
right.
Uh, but the Enuma Elish it's a Babylonian origin story, and I think that's important to highlight that Genesis 1 is a creation story. The Enuma Elish is the Babylonian origin story. Now, there's a subtle but important difference there because the surrounding ancient Near Eastern cultures they believed that matter in the created order was more or less eternal, and deities come from the creation, whereas in the Bible, creation comes from the one true deity. And that's important to note too, Michael, because the Enuma Elish is
Hmm.
polytheistic as its assumption. The idea of a single creator God who not only makes everything, but exists outside of time, matter, and space that's a feature that separates something like the Enuma Elish and the Book of Genesis. And in the Enuma Elish, the slain gods, because there's this big battle, um, they become things like the earth. And humanity springs from the dead gods. So Tiamat, the sea goddess, is slain by Marduk, and her body is split into two, and half becomes the earth and half becomes the sky. And that humanity is brought forth from the blood of Kwenku, Tiamat's advisor, who also loses the battle along with her. So we also have no linguistic parallels. So you can see the content is very, very different. And so if we're ascribing a word for word or a plagiarism, I mean, all you have to do is read each text and see, listen, that's not what we're dealing with here. And then if we look at the languages themselves, the Akkadian and the Hebrew of the Enuma Elish, and then Genesis chapter 1, the parallels, such as copying or plagiarizing for something like the Enuma Elish in the Akkadian text, and then the Hebrew Genesis, I don't think evidence literary borrowing, and there are no legitimate connections between the content. So, though both are Semitic languages originally as they're written, I don't think we have an issue of causation, right? We have an issue of correlation in sort of broad ideas that are general ancient themes. But in terms of trying to establish a correlation versus causation issue, if we want to say that something like the Enuma Elish is word for word of Genesis, we need to establish a causative link, and we just don't have that.
So why would people say this?